Good afternoon. Time for another. Sorry, excuse me. My goodness, time for another video. This one is a little bit late. I was supposed to do this yesterday, but other things came up really. So today I'm going to talk about bullying. Bullying and mental health do sort of go hand in hand. In fact, they go very much hand in hand. But not all people that are bullied suffer from mental health, and obviously not anyone that suffers from mental health are always bullied or have been bullied. I myself was bullied through school. Whenever I hear people turn around and say, "Oh, yeah, school days are the best days of my life," not for me. Hated it. Literally hated every single minute of school. Um, even the time I scored a wonder try in rugby. I think it was year 10 at my upper school. I think I ran 70 yards, and I'm not exactly. I was never the fastest, and with my heart condition, obviously, I was never going to be the fittest. But I ran and ran and ran and ran, and scored a wonder try. But I was still bullied. I was bullied at every school that I actually went to, which is bizarre, horrible. That includes obviously the time when I lived in London, North London, Enfield. Um, so it's for me, bullying is bullying to me is all about power. Where for me, this is from my own perspective. Now, other people will be like, "Well, no, we already know it could be about this." Well, yeah, we could, but for me, it's about power. People think that they've got the power over you. Now, don't get me wrong. There may be people out there that are bullies that are being bullied themselves, that are being forced into it, or they think that this is the only way that they see fit, which is where power comes into it. They pick on the weedy guys, the nerdy guys, or the guys that don't look like that they're gonna model something for a magazine or be on a board. A bit like this face isn't going to be this face isn't going to be advertising anything pretty soon unless it's Santa Claus uniforms. But then a lot more needs to be done about bullying. We seem to have gone into a general. I remember sort of maybe 10 years ago or so, bullying was a sort of a focal point of everything that someone was doing. A bit like what mental health is now. And it seems to have taken a back burner. And I'm not saying that mental health has made the mistake of jumping in. What I'm saying is that people are quick to jump on bandwagons. So the right people are commenting about mental health, but then there are people that are jumping the bandwagon, forgetting what they were actually doing, and things are being left behind. And with 10 years ago, bullying was sort of focal. I remember there used to be a campaign. Now, October this year, so this is why I said it's a little bit late. This is National Bullying Prevention Month. So I've only got like 9 days to get this out. Now, the one thing, and with bullying, um, bullying's really harmful. Now, I remember being at school. This was actually in Enfield. I was not allowed to do PE when I was growing up. Straight away, I had to sit PE out, and in the school that I went in Enfield, I used to have to sit in the library, and the librarian that worked there was a lovely lady. Cannot remember her name. All I remember is my last day there. Some kid was screaming the school down, and she plonked me on this chair, and she said, "Stay there, stay there." She was really panicking, and of course I'm panicking as well, being what I was 8 years old, thinking, oh, what's going on? And he's screaming and screaming and screaming. She stands up, she walks towards the doors to the library, where all of a sudden they flew open, and this older boy came in, and he actually had a pen in his eye, and no word of a lie, he had blood everywhere. I remember that thinking, wow, I've never liked my eyes being touched. I've had hot metal fly into my eye, and I had to wear, an eye patch for about a week. That was in the that was early millennia. That was about 2001, 2002. So yeah, I remember wearing the eye patch, and it was it wasn't even a proper eye patch. It was a bit of gauze and some tape. Um, if it couldn't have looked more NHS if it tried. And I don't like my eyes being touched, And I think back now, was he being bullied, or was he? I've no idea who this guy is. I say it was my last day at that school. We moved to Biggleswade, and I went to a different school. I can probably guarantee I've only thought about that bloke about 6 times in my life. Make that 7, because I've just thought about it now while telling you that story. But bullying, I say, for me, it's about power. Now I'm a person that can take banter, that will give banter, but I know sometimes I go over the top, and I know it can annoy people. And I don't really have an off switch. So I've not slept for 2 days. Not really slept probably for 2 days. Yeah, I've not really got an off switch, because that's how for some reason that's how my personality works. No idea why, but I don't have this awe of wanting to go out and put my. I can't explain it. I just don't understand why people would bully. As I say, it's for me, it's about power. That you want to belittle someone, you want to take the piss out of them, which, to a degree, can be done. As I say, friendly fire, as in banter. But if it's like a new child, a new kid gone into school, and let's say he's got glasses on, let's say he's got ginger hair, let's say he should be 5'2", 5'3" as a normal sized kid, but he's actually 5'0", 4'11". Let's say he's smaller than everyone else. Let's also say that he has a speech impediment. This it's not great. It's not great. And everyone decides to take the piss out of him. They call him Four Eyes. They call him a Ginger, the Ginger Minger, or they call him Ginger Nuts, or they just use a word in irony. So they start calling him Speech, which I've actually heard someone being called Speech because they have a lisp, and because they have a lisp, the guy that took the piss out of him then decided to get a glass of water, dribble it down their chin, and say, "Is it like looking in a mirror?" It's not funny, really. It's not funny. Now, if you do it with your mates, as I say, if it's down to banter, that's down to banter. If your mates can take it. But this new kid may have already heard those names. Shorty, Four Eyes, Ginger, Ginger, whatever. Or they start calling him Psy because of speech impediment. All right, Psy, children seem to have this clever way of making words out of other words. I read somewhere a few years ago, children were actually using we're using H9 to mean hate, but hate them more, because they didn't want their parents to know that they were actually writing hate, as in H8. So they were writing H9, and it was actually meaning that they hate that person, but more, they hate them more. What also happens is we have this society of we don't grass, we don't tell, or we have this society of, well, if he punched you, punch him back. Well, if he did that, I'll punch him. And this is where things get twisted, because the bully will then become the victim, and the bullied becomes the perp. I actually heard it today on the bus. I was coming back home, and there was a young girl sitting with her mother, and she was talking and talking and talking. And her mum said, "Well, you need to speak to the teacher." And the gentleman behind, elderly gentleman, as far as I was aware, had nothing to do with them, then said, "No, don't be a grass. Just hit them back." And it was laughed off by the mother. But to me, that's a dangerous precedent. That's a precedent to set. Telling a teacher that you're being bullied is not being a grass. It's making sure that you get the education that you deserve, the education that you may want. Children aren't going to school to be bullied, to be cornered, to be called names, or to be whatever. Children may want to go to school because they want to be the next Amelia Earhart, or they want to be the next Neil Armstrong, or they want to be the next, because of today's media society, and because we live in this celebrity world, they perhaps want to be the next Sheldon Cooper and become a physicist, or they want to be Sebastian. Probably a name that you're thinking a bit random. It's gone from all these really iconic names and then has chosen Sebastian. Sebastian was the name of the child in Neverending Story, where he was being picked on by three boys, got his ultimate revenge at the end of the film. But there was one thing that stood out from Sebastian, and one, obviously, it was bunking off of school, but he liked to read books, and I love to read books. Now, I don't get so engrossed in reading a book that I end up having to scream out of a window like he did. But he was still bullied. But there are children out there that probably want to become an author, or they think that they want to become a voiceover actor, or they want to be just a normal actor, or they want to be a TV presenter. There is one job for every single child out there that they want to be: a paramedic, a nurse, a doctor, a police officer. But yet we have a society where we judge. We still have this pecking order. Oh, my son's going to have to become a bully. I don't expect him to be bullied. If my son gets bullied, I want him to punch back. We shouldn't live in that society. That society should not exist. I don't have any children. I cannot possibly comment on other people. What they're saying is wrong or anything like this, but in my opinion, I don't agree with it. I wouldn't tell my child to hit back. I would say, look, if you're getting punched, you tell a teacher or a dinner lady. Do not punch back, because do not make them the victim. Because if you punch back and it ends up being harder than they've punched you, you are in the wrong and they become the victim, which basically means that they can keep doing what they're doing because no one will grass them up. Don't be a grass. What a stupid phrase. What a silly, silly phrase. Let's now roll it on to how bullying correlates. Bullying can lead to mental health. It's simple. If you're bullying a child, that child is going to go home. He's going to cry. He's not going to concentrate. He's not going to want to do his homework because he wants to forget about school. He's going to try and bunk off. He's going to start lying. Oh, I'm ill. Doesn't want to go to school. Will literally do anything to stop himself going to school. Sorry, themselves, not himself. Themselves going to school. But why should they? Or because we have a society of saying, let's not grass. That lying and that not wanting to go to school is spiraling that child into a possible state of depression, of anxiety. I remember waking up one day after being pushed in a puddle and basically having a din lady blame myself, take me to the headmaster's office, who blamed me as well. And he then drove me to my house because I had a key to get changed. I didn't have any other trousers ready. There were no other trousers ready. And when I told him that, I was sent back to school. He drove me back in the same trousers. Thankfully, I had a PE kit, and he gave me permission to wear the PE kit. That's not good. That's not good. I was blamed for being pushed into a puddle. Now, I've spoken about this before, where I went through a window at school. I was blamed for that as well. I was blamed for that by the din ladies. I remember one of the doctors seeing me and saying, the reason your injury in your arm, and I'll show you the scar again, there it goes all the way around, sort of starts there and it goes all the way around to halfway down my arm. One of the reasons why the injury was so long was because when he asked me how the arm was removed, was it like that? No, it was like that. She dragged me out, and the glass was obviously still in my arm and sort of sliced up. I remember the din lady grabbing my arm. I can't remember which one it was. I'm not going to name her anyway. I remember she grabbed my arm and she marched me to the office of the school where the reception area is. Now, she opened the door. She didn't knock on the door. She opened the door. And I remember her words were, "This boy has just smashed a window and has got blood everywhere." Not that I've injured my arm or that she saw anything happen. It was, I've smashed a window and I've got blood everywhere. She had my arm. I can't really show you like this, but she had the wrist round my arm. So she had blood on herself as well. A teacher saw my arm and grabbed hold of it with the wound completely and utterly open. You can actually see the bone. And he actually grabbed my arm on the wound, and I screamed, and he told me not to be a big girl's blouse. My sister and her friend fainted when they saw that. And they lied to my mum as well. Anyway, so getting back to bullying. So there's different types of bullying, and none of it is good. None of it's good. As I say, there's a difference between bullying and banter. Bullying is when it's not wanted. Banter is reciprocated. If you have banter with someone, they will have it with you back. That's fine. But if you see a four-eyed ginger who can't talk properly, and you think, oh, I'm going to start calling him Si because he can't speak properly, don't. Think about your own imperfections, what they could come back with. What would your reaction be if he then turned round and said, at least I can grow hair? Would you laugh it off? Possibly. But why did he need to say it back? Anyway, that's me. Toodle pip.